Good morning and welcome to another ironic introduction to another video. I apologize for not having this out sooner. My phone powered off while I was sleeping, and so my alarm didn't go off. But let's make this quick because we all have important things to do. So I don't have access to this Cavalier one, but just based on when I looked in the shop, I imagine this is going to be $70 plus. But essentially, for what I'm assuming is $70, you will have access to 1,000 6-star shards up front, 4,500 5-star shards up front, and 3 greater champion boosts. And over the course of the next 30 days, you will receive 10,500 5-star shards, or notably, when you add them all together, 1 featured crystal. And you will receive 1,500 6-star shards, so up to a quarter of a 6-star character total, which is a reasonable amount, all things considered. But for $70, maybe not worth. I would go find a price on that if you have access to that, because if it's less than $70, we can start talking about value. And if you're a whale or you are someone who spends, I would say if you're someone who spends more than $250 on the game per pay period, if you're spending around $500 plus a month, that deal might be worth looking at just because of the 6-star shards alone. A quarter of a 6-star character is nothing to balk at, as only for the 6-star characters do I consider partial crystals and having any value. Otherwise, I think partial crystals are just a waste of time unless they're topping you off. And first things first is this Premium Hero Daily card. This card is something you should completely ignore as a player unless you just started your account sometime in the last 30 days. If you are 30 days young on your account, this deal is probably pretty solid, with its value increasing the earlier your account is. So if you just started your account today and this deal is accessible to you, I would think this is a solid way to spend $10 if you have it beyond the rest of the beginner deals. Like, get this over the Deadpool deal, for example. You do get a reasonable amount of 4-star shards, which is you get a half of a 4-star character. You get a decent chunk of 3-star heroes from this, because you'll have your first guaranteed 3-star hero somewhere around 5 days in, which is a solid amount just for logging in. This will help boost you towards a 4-star character, because you will be able to get access to 4-star shards relatively soon. And overall, it's not a bad deal if you're a brand new player. I would say somewhere around 7 to 14 days, this deal starts to really lose luster, and after 30 days, this deal, just completely ignore it, as I will be as well. This next one, for $30, you will get essentially 4 4-star characters, 500 5-star hero crystal shards, and a chunk of sig stones that will be class based. I don't think it would have hurt to make these generic. For one, it's more enticing, and for two, class ones suck. But for $30, 4 4-star characters up front is not a bad deal. I would actually buy that. But as an impatient gambler, I think 4 4-star characters over the course of 30 days is just not worth it. Even for $30, I think that if you're going to force a loyalty card, which I love loyalty cards, these things have in the past had really good deals, and I would make the argument that the only reason they're making it 4 4-star characters for $30 is because of the loyalty card. But if you're going to make a loyalty card, make the deal better, right? It should be a stronger deal than this. Like, I don't think it would have hurt to either pump in some more 5-star hero crystal shards or throw in some energy refills. These should be generic, like, without a doubt. These should be generic. And if you're not going to do any of that, I would say don't even offer the 5-star hero crystal shards, or stick them into the monthly deal, and boost the amount of 4-star shards you get. Like, at base, this should be somewhere between 6 to 8 4-star characters. I think it would not have hurt to say 2,000 4-star hero crystal shards up front, right? That's a 4-star hero crystal. That feels nice and shiny. And then to make this, say, 200 per day, that would have totaled out to 6,000 here, and 2,000 here, which would be 5 4-star characters, and then maybe make this like 1,000 or make this like 1,500 over the course of the month. I just don't see any issue with that. When you're forcing a loyalty program, you're expecting people to log in every day, and that will generate revenue on its own. I don't think you need to make this deal so close to what would be like an instantaneous gamble deal. So especially since it's the beginning of the month, and this is a choice that people have to make. Usually if your deal goes to like the second, the third, it's a little bit easier for people to make bigger money choices. But if you are someone who spends, I would say 200 plus per pay period, maybe 150 plus per pay period, or $300 or to $500 per pay period, this deal is not so bad, especially if you are not someone who is like a stacked 5-star roster like I am, and someone who's like in the intermediate side of player base. This has got some value in that ballpark range of how much you're whaling. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people. I don't put that much money on the game yet, and so I will not be buying this, because the thing you got to remember is that these are not like guaranteed characters. These aren't awakening gems. These don't have static value. So while it is like a nice and pretty amount of 4-star characters, it's random. So you could theoretically wait all month for 4 Cyclopses, 4 Groots. And so that's the point I make. If this was an instantaneous gamble, you wouldn't have to be logging in every day, and then you could get your disappointment and or your glee all up front. But to have to log in every day, I don't think that's worth. So moving on to this next one, this is a $70 deal. You do get generic 6 stones, like it should have just been like that across the board. And then you get a chunk of 6-star shards. This is a reasonable chunk of 6-star shards. I feel the need to acknowledge at least. You will get some more random 6 stones. Like, this is an acceptable way to do it, where you put in the generic and the randoms, just kind of adds like a nice little toast to it. And over the course of the month, you will get essentially a 5-star featured crystal, or 1,500 shards. This is not like a terrible deal in and of itself if this was the $30 deal. For $70, 1.5 5-star characters, and not a negligible amount of 6-star hero crystal shards, but I would make the argument that it's definitely something you would have and just kind of ignore for the most part. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the reality of that. For $70, I feel like this deal is pretty terrible. like I would make the argument this deal is probably worse than this deal over here. It's just ridiculous. Because you're going to spend your whole month waiting, and like if you're like me and you don't pop featured 5-star crystals, because why would you? You're going to spend your whole month waiting, and then you get to RNG a potential just disappointment. Like, if for the people who buy this and spend $70 on this and then spend the whole month just waiting for their character, and then they pop it and it just ends up being disappointment, I think that's gonna really, really hurt. And I get the feeling that people might buy this card here and then take a break from the game, because that's what this is set up to do. This is set up to just burn people really bad. Now, to be said, this card does have a value, right? It is still a 5-star featured character, some 6-star shards and some 6 stones. I would make the argument that if you spend quite a bit of money on the game, this one might not be such a bad deal. But for $70, you could also just get, you know, like if you're buying these first two, you could almost just get an Odin's Vault. And personally, I would just rather gamble on Cavalier Crystals. I know it's only 10 Cavalier Crystals, and your drop rate there is not great, but then at least you are doing your gambling up front all at once, and not like a monthly card where you're just like waiting in anticipation. But that said, if you don't like to buy units and buy Cavalier Crystals, and you are spending somewhere in the 500 plus range of money a month, I would say this deal is something you should buy, just because it's not going to put a dent in the amount of money you're whaling on the game overall. Yeah, I mean, if you're spending over $500 a month here, this deal gets noticeably better. But I'm only spending somewhere between $200 and $300 a month right now, even less this month because I just didn't work a lot of overtime on the last paycheck. So this deal is not worth for me. Sorry this took a little bit longer. I'm still waking up, so the words forming in my head is not great. But hey, that's what I think about this deal. If you buy this and you're able to draw, let me know what you get, because RNG is terrible. So I would gamble a majority of people who buy these are going to get totally screwed and completely regret their month-long commitment to, well, just sadness. That said, enjoy your whale bait. Hopefully if you're buying it, you can enjoy it, and I will talk to you later.